Welcome back to G-Brands. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're in Sydney, JP's home ground.
We're on tour.
Wow, look at the fresh lights, the studio.
Yep.
Yellow everywhere.
Gold.
I bought my jandals, or what do you call them over here?
Thongs.
Thongs, which when I think of a thong, I obviously don't think of a jandal, do I? Anyway.
Thongs, mate.
But
Thongs.
yeah, it's 21 degrees. It's 2 degrees in Queenstown, so I'm happy to be on tour.
Good. Let's talk about the big news out of the All Blacks. Marshy, what was your first reaction when you heard that Leon MacDonald had quit the All Blacks setup?
Mate, I was totally shocked. Now, I wasn't over the news of that morning, so I had no indication that the announcement was coming. So this is going to sound bizarre, but I was actually shifting firewood. I got a delivery of firewood that turned up, and I was moving it up into my wood bins, and I was on the wheelbarrow, and I was panicking to do it because it was the same day I was flying out to come here, which was yesterday. So I was like, am I going to get it finished? Am I going to miss my plane? And the phone rings, and it's a reporter. And he said, mate, can we get you on the breakfast show tomorrow morning? And I straight away thought, yes, I know I can't do it because I'm not going to be here. And then he said, because of why? And he said, there's an announcement today. Leon MacDonald is leaving the coaching group. And I said, why? It was my first reaction. I said, I don't know about this. And he said, yeah, it's coming out in about an hour's time. I said, I couldn't believe it. I honestly couldn't believe that after only 5 test matches, that things were that wrong, that he has to pull the pin.
And I think because you obviously know both of them.
Played lots of rugby with both of them, and know both of them off the field as well. That I consider them both mates because we socialise together, so we see each other regularly. Just saw both of them at the Crusaders Hall of Fame, and we went out and had beers and that afterwards. So, not only were they former teammates, you drift from certain teammates.
Of course. Yeah.
Leon, I played a lot of golf with, so him and I, we play squash games. So him and I are really tight, and Razor's one of my best mates. So yes, know them both very well.
And we'll never, like the inner sanctum of a rugby team, we used to call it with the Wallabies Agenda A and Agenda B. Like Agenda A is what we would tell the press, and Agenda B was actually what was happening. And we'll never know the real story. Like, I mean, I think that it was stated that they had some hard conversations and they just figured out it wasn't working. But like knowing them.
Problem for me is there's history there because they were coaching together at the Crusaders as well, and they've also coached age group New Zealand under 20s as well. So the fallout of Leon leaving the Crusaders, like again he came to Razor and said that he doesn't want to stay part of the Crusaders coaching group, that he's going to take up an opportunity to coach the Blues, which knocked Razor for 6, to be honest, because he wasn't expecting that, and they were all going to be working together. So you would have thought that they would have ironed out those issues. When Razor applied for the coaching role when Ian Foster was under the pump, he had obviously had a conversation with Leon, because when he presented that to the board, Leon was part of his coaching group. So they've obviously been having those conversations leading up to then when Razor got his opportunity to apply, Leon was part of it. So it's like, how the hell have they not discussed coaching philosophy, direction they want to go in, and how they're going to work together to produce the best rugby team in the world, which is the ultimate goal. Yeah. But now they are saying that we have different philosophies on how we see the game and where the game wants to go, and we're not clicking. And I was just like, well, surely you've done your due diligence before this has to happen.
Do you think, I know with Eddie Jones, because he was my coach with the Brumbies, 2001 after we won the final, then went into the Wallabies coach. And I always felt that Eddie changed. And I didn't know whether or not that was... Because there's a couple of things. Because Eddie Jones never played for the Wallabies, right?
Didn't he play for Randwick?
Yeah, Randwick. He was famously jumped by Phil Kearns. Actually, funny story with that, man. Remember the little halfback Matt Henjack?
Yes,
you remember him?
I do,
He was a pest, right? He was a germ. Him and Eddie Jones used to they used to go at each other.
They clashed, didn't they? I did hear that.
Oh, they used to hang shit on each other all the time, and because Eddie loved banter, and that's where the champ came from, right?
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were in England. I was with Justin Harrison with Goog, because we used to listen to it and go, oh, Matty Henjak, you've overstepped. Anyway, we used to, with our tracksuits, we'd have our Wallaby number at the bottom of them embroidered in, because obviously when you stuff 22 tracksuits into a bag, you need to be able to sort them out, right? So they sorted them by number. And here's Eddie and Matty Henjak going at each other. And then Matty Henjak's turned around one morning and said, "Where's your Wallaby number, champ?" Like this. And the eyebrow, man. Like, the eyebrow was in the back of the head. And I remember looking at Justin Harrison and looking at Gorgon. I remember turning to him going, "Matty's gone, man."
He's not coming back from that.
He's not coming back. But I noticed a distinctive change of control, like in terms of, because you need a coaching staff that where you give them the freedom and also trust them, right? Like where they make the decisions for that department. And the good coaches, like the Rod McQueens, for example, mate, he surrounded himself with good people and changed the game and trusted them. And I just felt I saw a distinct difference in Eddie Jones when he became head coach and how he interacted with his assistant coaches with the Wallabies. So do you think that might be?
Well, look, both head coach. Now, head coach, ultimately, what you've got to think about, for people out there is the way the dynamic works is when you're a head coach, the buck stops at you. So you'll get the information, you'll get the advice and the help from your assistant coaches, but ultimately, when it comes to selection, the assistant coach will give the input of who they feel that they want in that area of coaching. Say it's the back line. But ultimately, the head coach will make that decision. He'll go, yeah, I take that, but no, I'm going to pick this player. Because he knows that his neck is on the line. So equally, in terms of game plan, method, attack, and everything like that, it'll all be suggestive. And if you work together and you kind of marry your way through it, like, it'll be fine. But if the head coach doesn't agree, then he will say, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not attacking from there. And what you've got is Leon MacDonald is a head coach. So he's probably not used to somebody saying to him, "No, I don't."
And that's why he went to the Blues, to be a head coach.
Yeah, that's right.
What he wants to be.
Yeah.
So you probably nail on the head.
So he's probably frustrated because he feels there's a different pathway in terms of their attack, which was responsible for. That was his role within the All Blacks that he wanted to go on, and he was probably being battered away because of that. And so that's where you get that word "we're not clicking," because they've got a difference of opinion. Or
selection too. Like
selection's part of it.
Well, they ruled out selection in the press. Do you think?
Look, again, agenda A, agenda B, man. Like what they say in the press and what's actually really happening. Because it's been a major discussion with us, right? Like because, and this is always, I believe, it's been it's a bad thing for the All Blacks, but it's obviously a good thing when you have too many selections, like when you got 2 to 3 people deep in the one position, right? Like it's actually a headache when you've got players like Bodie Barrett and you've got someone like Will Jordan coming back. Like when you talk about attacking styles, that's also directly related to selection, because if you've got a certain type of attacking style, you need those players to implement that. And I think Cully touched on it really well, like in our previous episode when, he was talking about that's a winger, like Mark Talia, Sevu Reece, Caleb Clark, actual wingers. And your style of attack with those type of wingers, well, particularly Sevu Reece and Mark Talia, they come off their wing and they do get in the middle, right, and pick and go, and they work rate, whereas someone like a Will Jordan will float and he'll be instinctive like a Christian Cullen. So for me, selection is a major part of attacking philosophies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like obviously I've said on previous pods, about not agreeing with some of their selections. I feel that they are not position-specific picking, like they are trying to get players on the field to have those players on the field, and they'll put a jersey on them that not necessarily is the best jersey for them. And that's that philosophy has got some merit, because Scott Robertson has said quite categorically that he wants players that can play multiple positions.
Yeah.
So that dynamic comes into it, but Leon MacDonald might not agree with that. I don't know. We're only speculating on that. But I guess another another part of the equation, when you think about it, there's a lot of the noise coming from particularly the media, but people looking from the outside in, is about the overload of coaches in there. Like there are 7 coaches in the mix. And what's interesting in the fallout of this is them quite comprehensively saying that they're not going to replace Leon MacDonald. The other 2 people, Scott Hansen is going to pivot and look after the attack, and so is Jason Holland. So they're going to not bring in another coach. And I wonder
that's
if,
interesting.
isn't that interesting? Because they felt that they needed that many, but now all of a sudden they don't. And like I said, a lot of the chat's been too many voices. The players look like, and the players must be like, we've got 7 coaches, all in certain areas wanting to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah, all this new information that we keep hearing about as well. And then you hear Sam Cane after the win against Argentina just saying how much they simplified everything and it felt everyone had a clearer head.
Yeah.
And then we talked about that with Christian Cullen as well, just where players back in the day, you didn't have as much information, you could just play. And that could be part of the reason as well with too many coaches. You get that, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Like I know that when we were, and you'll be the same, JP, when we were only usually operating with a head coach and 2 assistants, and you'd maybe have one specific like kicking guy, maybe that comes in, but he was kind of just on the peripheral. That as a player, you knew that you're going to get reviewed, but not to within an inch of your life. Because there's a guy specifically on your position going, righto, you've had your general review as a backline and then kind of as a unit. Well, then you're going to have another guy coming in and he's just going, right, I want to look at your breakdown work for the entire game. And you're like, oh, shit, okay. So, and there is this feeling of baggage, as a player, that if you're carrying all this weight of feedback, like it must be heavy work. You do want to be able to get through a game making an error and go, well, hopefully I'm not going to get picked on to within, again, an inch of my life because of one error.
Mate, we worked Eddie Jones, so in the early 2000s, Eddie Jones used to get us to fill out like our review of the game, and we worked out it was always positive, negative. Because he would go, yes. And I go, oh, mate, but I've got to work on this and this. And he's like, yes. Like, I kind of worked about like positive, negative. But, and I think that started after the 99 World Cup in terms of the introduction of specialised coaches, because we were the first ones to ever have a defensive coach in John Muggleton, who was a Parramatta Eels absolute legend. He changed the game in terms of defence. We had 1 try scored against us in the 99 World Cup. Like no one crossed our line in the quarter, semi or final. And that was because we actually had structure. But then I think from there, it then started to get out of control, like where you then did have a specific line-out coach, like you said, a kicking coach, a skills coach.
Breakdown coach.
Yeah, breakdown coach. And I think that's what Joe Smith's done exceptionally well, is he reduced the numbers of coaches. And I think when you watch any sport, man, and you see a player get interviewed after a game and they turn around and they go, everyone was just clear on their roles. The clarity was there, right? Like the simplification of your game plan. And that's what everyone wants. That's what the winning teams do, right? They clarify.
One of the quotes that kept coming up in the press conference was Razor said a disagreement on philosophies on rugby, on how it was played, and it didn't quite click. And there were differing views on approach, methodology, and how the game is played. So they quite clearly disagree on
the direction they're going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In terms of game plan.
Yeah.
They're reading between the lines, that's exactly what it is. And I'll stay consistent. Like I said, Razor's a good mate of mine and Leon's a very good friend of mine. And I've always said to Razor, I'm in the position where I need to make comments with my work, around you and your team. And, to the best part, I'm hoping it'll all be 90% positive, but there will be the question marks about selection, about game plan, about that sort of care. And I said, always, please pick up the phone if you feel that we need to chat, because you know me, mate, I'm just speaking my mind and being honest. And I've not seen enough in these first 5 test matches in the All Blacks attack that we've massively taken a different direction in the way that we're attacking. And, look, everybody's gone over the Argentina game and said how great it was because it was a good performance and we ran in tries, but that's not the type of defence that the South Africans will throw at you, blitz-style umbrella defence. So all of a sudden your attack will look completely different against a side that defend differently. They defend better than England, much better, and yet we struggled against England with our attack. So I wonder whether or not, they have a mindset of they want to go this way, and it's just a subtle change, and Leon MacDonald is seeing something maybe that I'm looking at. I don't know. I'm only speculating here, but yes, reading between the lines in that in a long-winded way, and the reason that I'm mentioning it in that breath is because Leon's role within the All Blacks was back four, basically, or back three, but attack.
Yeah.
So that's their attack. So that's why I'm saying what I've seen, I'd have to agree with him. I don't feel that there's enough there that can penetrate that blitz-style defence yet.
Who are you agreeing with?
Leon.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So I believe, like how I sort of see South Africa and why they're the world champs, is because they've got 3 game plans. Like you need to have the ability to adapt to the conditions and the environment of the game on that day. Like in terms of your attacking style. Like say, for instance, with South Africa, they can just set piece you. Set piece, penalty goals, if they wanted to, and go off the back of their defence. Another way they can do it is they bring their wingers in off their, and they have a good kicking game where it's really contestable, and they tack a little bit more from the back. Or third game plan, they can use their width now. Now they've got that width. I believe the modern day game plan doesn't exist where you have one style. I believe you need to be adaptable, where you can change up to how that team is going, particularly with sin bins, red cards, and all this sort of stuff, right? So I look at the All Blacks and I look at, they never had, like that last game against Argentina, the one word was clinical. Man, they were just clinical at every aspect. But it was one game plan, man. It was just one thing. I wonder whether or not it's because Leon's got like this idea in terms of attacking and being able to change things up when it's gone to shit. Like, that's how I sort of see it. Like, I kind of think you can't just have one game plan here.
Nah, and there'll be an element of frustration there. Like, at the end of the day, he's come from a head coach role where he has the final say. But now the final say is not with him. And if he's seeing things that he feels they should be doing, but he's being batted away, that'll be where the frustration comes. And obviously it's got to a tipping point where they're massively disagreeing. And you just have to look at the comments that are coming out, not clicking, different philosophies, different ideas. But it's different ideas, different thought process, and the way that the rugby game plan should be unfolding. And the reason I keep going back to it is because, like I said, his role is not defence or breakdown. He's not unhappy with his role as attack. And so, that could be any number of things. Like we're only guessing, but when you read between the lines, they just can't get on the same page, and that creates disharmony.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you've got your main assistant coach and your head coach not agreeing on philosophy and game plan and execution and basically how the team are going to function, then that's going to be a shitstorm within the side, and the players will pick up on that real quick.
Is that like the old Mertz and Robbie Dean?
Yeah, it is exactly. Yeah, I know.
Where players are like, ooh,
yeah, exactly. Heads are down, and so.
What do you reckon those philosophies are? Like, I'm just a bit confused. I don't know if the sort of general punter will understand what
I think
that
it's selection,
looks like.
man. I reckon
Is
it's
it just
selection.
selection?
It'll be
shape, or
it'll be around areas to attack. It'll be around how bringing certain players into the game happens. Say for example, it might be a winger, and the way they want to use their wingers is coming in as second receiver. Or coming in off 10 all the time rather than coming in off 9, whatever it might be, bringing them in on an inside ball. Well, we're not going to do that. We don't want to bring our wingers on the inside ball. We want to bring them in, out 2 phases wider than that. Whatever it could be, anything just as small as that, and that creates a structure of where your game plans balanced around. So what we saw in the Argentinian test was the All Blacks looking to vary their kicking game a bit more. And that might be looking ahead to South Africa a little bit, because we saw a couple of really nice little chip kicks over the top.
Yeah,
they scored
variation,
in the first test.
right? Yeah, variation.
So that's what I'm meaning. But like, for example, Leon MacDonald might be saying to Scott Robertson, yeah, that's all very well and good against Argentina, but that won't work against South Africa. But he's saying, well, I think it will. This is hypothetically speaking. Do you know what I mean? But
all speculation, people.
Yeah,
all speculation.
But just to try and explain it to people out there, it might be subtle. It might be more than subtle, and it might be quite significant, where they just can't get on the same page.
And it's interesting, because while you're speaking, I was thinking Razor's shtick is attack as well, isn't it? He loves that sort of the creative style of play and that kind of thing, and you've got a head coach doing the same job. It's almost like those two jobs, or that one job is being split between like two people.
I think his would be more overall game plan, which will have an element of attack in it, but head coach will be overseeing the lot. Like, so Leon might have been looking after strike moves, for example.
Right.
And then in the phase play, he might be getting frustrated. It could be the other way around. That Razor's very much wanting to do the strike moves, and Leon's frustrated that after that, when he's bringing his backs in, that shape is not working for him, and he wants to do something different. Could be not that. It could be any blend. But what we basically know is they're not agreeing on the structure of the attack, because that's the role. And they have quite clearly said, we're not clicking, our philosophies are different. And you can't have that in a team environment, because it pulls you apart when you're getting messaging from a... And look, let's face it, it's a ballsy decision from Leon, fair play. And from Razor as well. But like, what they have done it for is for the betterment of the All Blacks, because you cannot have two coaches in there pulling it apart. And the players will feel that. And you can't have a coach there that doesn't want to be there. Like, there's no point in that. Like, you would have had stages. I remember my career, like, just quickly to talk about me, because we haven't had enough time doing that.
We've got JP to do.
I know we're sidetracking a little bit, but there's a point within this that goes back to being in a team environment, and coaching is the same as playing. When I was playing at the Ospreys and they signed Mike Phillips, and basically the coaches told me, I said, I'll take on that challenge, but I said, as long as he doesn't play the big games, because he's Welsh and they want to see him out there playing. They said, yeah, well, that's kind of what we're going to do. And I said, well, I can tell you now that's going to make me really unhappy in the environment, because it doesn't matter what I do, I'll have to sit on the pine just because I'm not Welsh. And I said, that won't be good for me as an individual, but equally it won't be good for the team, because I'll be bloody sour as. Because it doesn't matter if I could be man of the match, the next week I'm not playing the Heineken Cup final because I'm not Welsh. That doesn't get me out of bed every day. If Leon MacDonald's going along and coaching that side and not coaching the side to where he believes they can improve and be better as individuals and be better as a team, he's infectious for the environment. And I know that feeling as a player. And I can imagine it's the same as a coach. It's like, you know what? I'm going to make things worse by being here. And Razor will know that as well. So the fact that they can stay mates, but go, you know what? The bigger picture is the All Blacks and the jersey. We've got to resolve this. And the only way to resolve it is...
And so, again, because you know these two guys... In terms of their coaching philosophies, do they listen to leadership players? Like, we would have a leadership group, and would they discuss in their leadership meetings like game plans? Obviously, not selection, or sometimes captains will give their opinions on selections. Does Razor do that?
Yeah, very much so.
So could it even possibly throw out another little X-file here? Could there have been something from players as well?
Oh, there could have been. Yeah. And like I said, we're only kind of guessing, and they're only going to give us so much, which rightly they should do, because otherwise you start...
Gender A, man. Gender B, man.
Exactly. You start to dissect everything, and then it becomes more of an issue, rather than just getting to the key points and getting through them. But, like I said, we're only guessing. And like I said, I'm just only saying this because I know what his role is. But he might be super annoyed with the entire game plan. the kicking strategy, the defence. Like, because he's a head coach and he's used to overseeing all of that, it might not even be the attack. He actually might be happy with the attack.
Yeah.
But super like, we're not, our kicking structure is off and I don't like the way they're defending. Because he's seeing the broader picture, it could be any of those things. So like I said, we're just guessing, but what we do know is whether it's the whole game plan, or whether it's just the attack, whatever it might be, when they said coaching philosophies around the game, straight away I was like, they do not agree on the game plan. And game plan can be all of those things, or one of those things.
That's such an interesting point, because you've got so many other coaches there.
Yeah.
Leon might not be agreeing with a bunch of other coaches.
Exactly.
Correct.
There's so much
selection.
It might be fine with Fraser.
Everything.
And that's why they thought that they could work together, because they didn't see that Leon might not
Ooh,
fit
that's
with the
a
other
good
guys.
angle too, isn't it? That's a really good angle, actually. Like when you think like, when
I
you
think we've
that
solved the
way-
riddle.
Oh, well, we've only come up with 17 different ways, mate. Like, but yeah, you're right with the environment though. It's pretty intense. Like when you've got people disagreeing.
Yeah.
We mentioned the players. Like, how do you see this affecting the players?
I think what good coaches do, particularly specifically position-orientated coaches, which Leon very much has said publicly, I'm in charge of definitely the back three and back attack. He would have been working with individuals within that and forming a relationship and talking about their game and where they can improve, where they're playing well, where as units they're doing things really well. All of a sudden there's a hole there for those players, and they're now going to have different voices coming into their mix. So all of a sudden Scott Robertson and Jason Holland are going to take over areas that they've been for 5 test matches under Leon MacDonald's supervision. Of course it's going to upset your rhythm a little bit, because different people will think different ways. Like Jason Holland and Scott Hansen are going to come in there and be telling these players individually the same thing that Leon MacDonald was, because they'll have their own thoughts on what they are doing well and what they are not doing well. So it will be a little unsettling, because the messaging's different. All of a sudden it's like, oh shit, you weren't saying that I couldn't grub a kick through the line, 5 weeks ago, but now all of a sudden I can't execute that skill. Where's this come from? Oh, I'm ambushed.
Mate, and let's not forget the added pressure of going to South Africa. Look what happened with Fozzie, right? Like that one loss.
Yeah, I know.
That pressure, right? And the hangover of losing to the Pumas in New Zealand, that first game, and then subsequently smashing them in the second and getting a lot more confidence back. But look, I think, you're spot on, Marshy. Look, the good coaches will manage their players. And I just feel the responsibility and the jersey, like the All Black jersey, of going to South Africa and winning 2 games is going to bypass anything that
it will.
Because it's like, remember, look, I've had nightmare scenarios, like like when players have accidentally got into trouble, like ended up in the papers, and it almost galvanizes you as a team, particularly as players, right?
Yeah.
Like where you've got to take the responsibility, because a win just erases everything.
And let's not forget about Scott Robertson's strength.
Amazing
His
coach.
strength is creating a really good working environment and culture for his players.
He's the best
to perform. And that's what his success at the Crusaders was. He pretty much inherited the same side that Todd Blackadder had, but Toddy couldn't get them. He got them to semi-finals, and he might have lost a final, and then he missed out as well. But he couldn't quite get them there. Razor didn't really change the personnel much.
Just had to bring in a new 10.
Richie Mo'unga might have been a big change.
But he did create. That's
Jordan.
That's all you talk about. This is where that word culture come from.
Yeah,
and he actually took it back to the past, to the Crusaders, to bring back what being in the jersey is all about. So my message in that is that yes, it'll create a little bit of an unsettling period for the players, but his strength is bringing them all in. They'd already done that prior to the press release. Obviously, they'd informed the players, and they would have ticked the boxes there. And what he will do now is what his strength is, which is he will bring that team tighter and together, and that's what he does really well. So you've got to say that they're in good hands because of that background.
It's probably the hardest task of bringing people together that you're ever going to get, because whether you like it or not, there's Blues players in that squad that would have agreed with the way that Leon MacDonald approached the game and his philosophies that will still be in the squad, that are now, obviously, they'll be having conversations with each other going, oh.
It's messy, though. Like, yeah, you're right. But let's look at Ian Foster, year out from the Rugby World Cup. Brad Moore's gone. John Plumtree's gone. Players have been through this before. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? The majority of them are like, all of a sudden, 2 of their assistant coaches are axed. Yep. And 2 new coaches come in. So it's not good for All Black Rugby that there is these dramatic shifts in mindset of, oh, these guys were once good for the job, but now they're not. So they're moving on, or we're moving them on and making these dramatic changes. But a lot of these players, I would have thought 60, 70% of these players were involved with Ian Foster's basically period that he coached the All Blacks, which was when they went through that transformation as well. So it's not something they haven't seen before.
Yeah. And the big thing here is also that you're seeing coaches that aren't afraid to make huge calls. Like, it's a massive call. And if you're a player, if you weren't already on notice, you sure as hell are now.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty about the professional player these days, mate. Like, they have to deal with so much more. Like, and just look at the criticism across social media platforms and the reach now that it goes. So players deal, like, mentally anyway, their mental toughness now, and their ability to switch on. So with Eddie Jones, mate, we had new assistant coaches every year, actually. Come to think of it, because they struggled to
Nothing's changed.
No, they struggled to work with him, man, because he was so intense. He was so intense. Like, I remember one assistant coach, I won't name him, but Eddie used to live above him when we were in Canberra, and so Eddie would get up anywhere from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. And this assistant coach,
I swear he doesn't sleep.
No, he doesn't, man. And I remember him. I remember this assistant coach telling me one night, having a couple of beers, as soon as that door opened and closed, his eyes were like, it was open, and it was that intense. So he didn't last longer than a year, I think. He didn't last longer than a year. So we just got on with it, man. Like, really, at the end of the day, too, as a player, you still gravitate towards the head coach. Like, and that's the thing with Razor. Like, he'll still have all the players.
And I think to probably finish off on this subject is, this actually might be a positive. Like, it might be a massive positive for Razor, because obviously they were struggling, the 2 of them. You got your main assistant coach and your head coach not agreeing.
Good point.
And at the end of the day, you've got to look at the bigger picture. Like, Leon was obviously not happy in the environment, and he wasn't happy with the direction they were going. And that would have been having an effect on the way he was coaching.
100%.
So now all of a sudden that's been removed, and it might just free up some, I don't know, some of the strain, some of that baggage, that all of a sudden things are different. This could actually very well be the catalyst for that team improving, because it might have been him that was holding them back. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all of a sudden assuming that, yes, he's unhappy, but who's to say what he wants to do is right?
Exactly.
It might already be going in the right direction. He's just not agreeing with that direction. So
it just needs to be one
plucking him
direction.
out of there, like
one direction.
I did say plucking him out of there, might be exactly what they needed. And obviously Scott Robertson and Leon MacDonald feel that way. They're mates, and it's like, we need to fix this, because it's not working.
You mentioned before the players will always gravitate towards the head coach's philosophies. JP, that's not entirely true for your career, mate. What happened with Nusafora?
Oh, wow. Yes. Wow. Yes, there's a story for you. And similarities, Nusafora, Leon MacDonald, both young coaches.
What period are we talking about here? This is before he went to the Blues?
This is 2004 when we won the Super Rugby title.
Yeah.
Do you know, so in 2001 when Eddie Jones took the Wallaby job after we won the Super Rugby title, one Steve Hansen applied for the Brumbies job.
Get out of here.
No way.
He actually flew over. Because our leadership group at the time, there was 3 players that were involved, and they took too long So he took the Wales job. So we actually could have had Steve Hansen at the Brumbies. Yeah, it was. I was filthy. We missed out on him. But so the other candidate, David Nucifora. So 2002 made the grand final. 2003 got knocked out in the semi, and
as Wallabies coach.
As the Brumbies coach. Right.
Okay.
So and no one ever put this together, but David Nucifora in his earlier days was very difficult to deal with as a coach, and particularly as a leader, as a player, like the leadership group. And there was a key moment there where George Gregan stood down as Brumbies captain. And
he stood down?
Yeah, and Sterling Mortlock was captain in 2004. Like, that's pretty significant.
So George Gregan said, I don't want to be captain anymore.
Yeah, he wasn't captain. He goes, no, give it to somebody else.
Now, reading between the lines, it's because he didn't want to deal directly with the coach.
But look, but to David Nucifora's credit, like, fast forward 20 years, he's now, like, what he's done remarkably with Ireland and what he's done. So I sort of look at this with Leon MacDonald, right? Like, and I think to myself, is it a young, inexperienced coach as well? Because he might be a head coach, but he's still young in his career, man.
Yeah.
And so, look, to finish off with David Nucifora, that was, oh, wow.
You had a meeting at the CEO's house.
That actually started, so in 2004, he was coming off contract. And the boys were like, nah. There was 15 of us, I think, coming off contract over the next 2 years. And the board started to negotiate with us as early as the start of 2004. And we were coming first. It was between you and us.
Yeah.
And we were actually in Christchurch. The first meeting happened with the CEO the first week of Super Rugby we were playing Auckland, the Blues, current champions, on the Saturday. We had this full-on intense meeting with a couple of senior guys and David Nucifora and the CEO at his house. And the shit that was said was just like, we were already logging heads, man. Like,
who's driving that conversation? Like,
the CEO. The CEO thought it was a good idea to, like, let's nut this out. Like, players were unhappy.
Seems like a good idea.
Well, it wasn't. It was the worst idea. Because players weren't going to re-sign. Like, this wasn't a collective. This is also wasn't player power. This was individual players making their own decision. I couldn't care what Griggs or Stephen Larkham or anyone like that when it came to my contract, because that was my livelihood, right? That was my coin. So I made my own decision that I wouldn't re-sign if David Nucifora was the coach. That's how much I didn't want to be coached underneath him. And it just collectively 14 other players had the same idea. So
coincidentally,
well, no. We didn't sit in a room and go, you're not going to sign, because again, we're talking about our life, like our coin, right? Like, you've got to be mature here. Anyway, we get to play you guys in Christchurch. The board members, the head of the board, chairman of the board, came and sat with me in a cafe. He goes, so are you going to sign or what? And I said, no, not if Nucifora is the coach. I can't play underneath him. I'm sorry. I just thought he was too young, inexperienced, and needed to go away and learn his craft. Anyway, he's put pressure on the board to say, I want a 3-year extension. I want a decision by this date. And then he went to them and he goes, what's my decision? And the board had to actually turn around and say, no, we're not going to extend your contract. He wasn't sacked. He just didn't have his contract extended. Renewed.
Yeah.
And this was 6 weeks out before the final, right? And so, and the worst thing the CEO did, like, Nucifora actually walked into the offices and said, that's it, I'm out, I'm walking out. And the worst thing the CEO did was say, no, stay for the end of the season. Because we would have won that championship anyway. Because, we got to a point where we didn't talk. We didn't listen.
The players didn't listen to...
No, we didn't listen to anything that was said.
What'd you do at training?
He would talk, we'd train, like, we knew what we were doing here, man. Like, and we took this responsibility on ourselves. How intense it was at training, man. Like, unfortunately there were families involved, and his family was very upset, which was, understandable.
Yeah, it's never nice.
So, it was so bad, man. The pressure, and we were being crucified as players, going, player power. No, it was individual decisions. Anyway, come to the day of the game, that's why we were 33-0 up after 14 minutes, man. Because
against the Crusaders in the final.
Against the Crusaders in the final, because we would never... I'd never been mentally switched on for a game in my entire life, man. Like, it was so intense. And why I've always wanted to explain that story actually publicly. But I think it's very similar with Leon MacDonald too, in an aspect where young coach, like he's only a couple of years into his coaching, and I just think he's a bit headstrong and potentially could have, because Razor's a good coach and he's been a coach for a long time, man, and won a lot of stuff. So I sort of look at this and wonder or not Leon MacDonald will go on and he'll do his craft and get better. So yeah, it was so intense, man. God. It's actually just puckered up in my pants, man, in my undies. Like thinking about it, man. Wow, that was an intense time, man. Intense.
Let's have a look at this weekend's games then, shall we?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we start with the Wallabies and Argentina?
Yeah, look, I think, if you take those two games of South Africa, obviously the first one, a lot of learnings from that game, completely outclassed, really. And they go and change their side. And we saw a dramatic improvement against the weaker side.
So what do you read into that?
Well,
it's a weaker side.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's there's positives and negatives, right? But I think, the positive out of that was, regardless of who you're playing, still playing South Africa, right? Still playing the Box. And whoever they put in there are still going to play at that world-class level. Very key, I suppose the significant thing for me was how long we were in the game for. So going into halftime, Noah Lelisa misses a penalty. We could have gone in 12-11 up. So mentally could have won that half going in. So that was a big mess. About the 55th minute, I thought, when young Jorgensen came on, played his first test, man, it was so cool. He could have backed himself. There was a cool little cross kick from Tom Wright. We tried four of them, and we kicked it straight to the box. So, again, execution. But if he would have backed himself, it was 18-12, and chipped over, and I think he would have regathered, we potentially could have been in the lead. And that's, as a team trying to build, you want to be in the game for as long as possible, right? And so I would say about the 56th minute. But again, the things we spoke about after the first loss, line-out maul. Again, South Africa scored 2-3 tries, penalties.
But the line-out maul where South Africa scored against the Wallabies, in their defence, the Wallabies didn't have their full complement of props. So you had two hookers on, didn't you?
Yeah.
So people didn't really know where they were defending.
I get that, but it's been our kryptonite for 5 games now, mate.
Look what Wales did to them as well.
Well, no, correct. No, and we've said this, right? Even Georgia, mate. Even Georgia, and what it does for your backs, in particular, the confidence level. If you can get parity, the Wallabies we used to. Because we had the best Ferraris and Lamborghinis out the back, right? All we had to do against the All Blacks or the Box was get parity. We had to just deliver good quality first phase ball, and then parity within not giving them an inch up. So penalties when it's their ball, so they could get easy territory. And that's sort of something that spreads through, and that's where you see backs come running in from the sideline, when there's a big scrum, and that's sort of something that, as a forward pack, you have to deliver. And I just think, look, we were longer in the game. We were in the game for about 56 minutes. That first one in Suncorp, mate, we were out in the first 20 minutes, I think. We didn't even last 20 minutes, did we?
No.
So I think that's a huge improvement. I think going to Argentina, because again, instead of looking at specifics here, the thing is, set piece, obviously, still delivering that good phase ball, kicking execution, man. We're still oh my goodness, we're still not making contestable or getting those crossfield kicks right. Because we still haven't seen how they can play yet, because they haven't had the ball, good quality ball. So, yeah, I think for me, man, if I was Joe Smith, I would seriously, defence, so attack wins games, defence wins championships. And if any team that's ever struggling for confidence, we always used to just bring it back to our defence, man. And it doesn't matter if it's 3-0. It doesn't matter if the game is 3-0. You've got to shore up your defence first. So for me, I would just go over to Argentina and try to keep them nude. That's the 0, right? That's always the
keep
pinnacle.
them nude. I like that.
Nude. So I'd forget everything else, and I'd just work intensely on my defence.
Have they got the team to be able to execute that?
Everyone's got the team because it's attitude. Defence is attitude. Defence is connecting to the bloke on your left and connecting to the bloke on your right and talking, communication. And that's purely an attitude thing. Like we beat the All Blacks in the 03 semi-final on the back of defence. It wasn't from our attack. We defended like our lives depended on it. We had no chance. So, again, and you need to implement this too into young kids, like that we've got a young team, and this transition is the attitude and defence. You could defend for 70-odd minutes and get 10 minutes of opportunity, but you take... England, there's the blueprint, man, those first 2 test matches against the All Blacks. Their defence was outstanding. To be able to continually get off the line for 80 minutes, wow.
Yeah.
They've got a side, mate. They're going to be a good side in the coming years.
On the flip side of that, like, when do you think Joe Schmidt is actually going to get to a point where he knows where his starting 15 or even starting 23 are at, and then get them out there to build some stamina on defence, to build their attack? Yeah, you might have to go through a bit of adversity. He's made so many changes.
Yeah.
And you know, like for example, halfback.
Yeah.
I think he's tried 4 of them. When, you know, second row, front row, you know, it's like some of them injury enforced, but ultimately there's no consistency in selection at all. And I don't feel that's helping them.
No, look, the 2 things, right, you want and why you normally pick players from the same state is that combination or that cohesion they have with those players, right? Like, you know, the most dominating side within Super Rugby normally gets the most selections, right? Like that's because they've already got that cohesion together. I feel for Joe, I think he should have all the time in the world leading up to the British and Irish Lions next year to get those combinations. It's tough too, man, when players aren't performing, right? So you kind of how long do you stick with them? Halfback's a really good one, actually, because I think Tate McDermott's the best halfback in Australia. I think he can be one of the best halfbacks in the world. But he hasn't been given a start yet.
He's not getting regular starts.
Well, no, because I think that's because Nick White and Jake Gordon is the leadership that they need on the field. There's also not a lot of leaders, man. So to build those to get those leaders, you need to play on the field with other leaders. And Nick White's a great example, man. He can control the game. You've also got a young 10, right, in Noah. So, look, I think the selections. I don't mind what Joe Smith's doing with selections because he's getting to see a lot of players.
Yeah,
like I don't mind, but you're right. He's going to have to shore down a team like as soon as he possibly can. But I can't see that happening. Bro.
The problem is that I'll tell you what, mate. And I said this before they came to New Zealand. Argentina are a different beast under Conte.
Absolutely.
They got shut out of the game at Eden Park, but they'd played their World Cup final the week before. And All Blacks just got stuck into them for 10 or 15 minutes. And all the celebrations and the euphoria of the week before, they were quite an emotional team. They were crying after the game in Wellington. You could just see that their energy levels were gone from the week before. But even though they galvanised in the second half, and the second half was even score, they won't lay down. They are a good side, mate. Like going to Argentina, being a lay down Mazia like years of the past. So what I'm saying is, he messes around again. You could come out of Argentina with another 2 losses, and then all of a sudden, the pressure.
And
will you still be saying? And will you still be saying? And Australian rugby public still be saying, "Oh no, but we're happy to give him time." And
I still will be.
You
mate.
could be losing 4 test matches on the bounce. 4.
I still will be, because another significant thing for Joe Smith is, and I know it's next year, but it's the reduction of Super Rugby sides. Like, we're already going to see a stronger Waratahs next year. They've already signed a half a dozen of the top Melbourne Rebel players. Again, we have to give Joe Smith the time simply because what he was given was a shit sandwich without the bread. Like, he was like,
Jeez, I tell you what, I wouldn't like either, to be fair. with bread or not with bread, give it a miss.
You've got to give him time here, mate. Like, and it's because it's not an All Blacks, like, you know, like we've said in the early episodes, right? Like, where it's like, how much time do you give that player? I think Joe Schmidt has all the time in the world, because there's no way you can settle on selection with this current Wallaby side with the results that they've been getting. So I think he still has to tinker and will tinker. 100%, man. I remember travelling. We won when we went over there in 2002 to Argentina, to Buenos Aires. What a place, right?
Yeah,
Concrete jungle. And we hadn't won there in 20 years, 25 years, because of, mate, we played at River Plate Stadium. I remember walking out.
Oh, I've been to River Plate.
Yeah, we're getting spat on, and like it was just like shit thrown at us.
Yeah.
Man, it is a tough place. But I will say the Wallabies have gone there and travelled really well in the last decade. And look, I feel getting out of the country too will be good for them for a tour. You know, like hopefully there's a bit of good old days, like where they do a bit of bonding and. Like, because I think, you know, a lot of new players, seen a lot of new faces, and, you know, it's tough to do those old bonding sessions here in Australia. So I think, you know, there's a good opportunity too to be able to galvanise this side and have a couple of drinks.
What's your expectation?
My expectation is not the result, it's how long we can be in the game. Like, so we've gone from 21 minutes against South Africa in the first game to, I would say, 56, 57 minutes in the game.
So you've got no expectation around.
No, I don't
result.
care about the result, mate. It's
Really?
the process. It's the process. We're not result. We're not in a place of results. We're in the place of the process of the acquisition at the moment. We're in a place where we need to be able to build a side in combinations, settle on selections by being longer in the game, and for players to understand that you got to play for 80 minutes. And the only way you get to that intensity level, man, is going through this process. And so I don't care about the score.
Jeez, you've got the Lions next year.
No.
Yeah,
I care about, mate, the only way that we're going to be competitive against the Lions, we need to play for 80 minutes at Bledisloe Cup level, South Africa level, like Rugby Championship level. We currently are at probably 25 to 30 minutes in a game, because if you take that South African selection in Perth, really, if they played their first team, we might have been only 26 to 28 minutes again. So it's that ability, and that's why I keep saying defence, like too, is England were in the game for 80 minutes in those first two tests on the back of not their attack, it was the back of their defence, mate. Like they took their opportunities when they got them. And this is the thing with the Wallabies, man. Like I would scale it way back, but for me it's time in the game and whether or not we're a chance.
Let's go to South Africa then.
Ooh,
Do we have to?
No, this is going to be colossal, mate. This is
crazy. Like,
this is gladiator shit, man.
Back to
this
back.
is awesome.
Back-to-back world champions, South Africa, in South Africa, 2 All Blacks tests, world number one. Like, what else do you want?
No coincidence that the first test is at Ellis Park.
What
I can tell you now, like, again, I'm speculating, but like looking from the exterior in, absolutely they should take that game to Soweto. Bigger stadium, more people, more revenue, you know, like the opportunity there to make good money out of the All Blacks being on your home soil. That's where that game should be played. I think it's 90,000 people. Ellis Park is 65 or 70,000 people.
No, not that much, 55. I think it's
Well,
run
there you
down.
go.
Yeah, it's run down.
So, you know, but Ellis Park is where the All Blacks are loved to be seen by the South African public, but equally the Springboks feel like that's where they're at their most hungry to eat them up. They love that stadium.
Mate, you know what? You know why they love it?
So pumped.
You know why they love it, mate? It's because you've got to run up that really steep hill at half time. Like
yes.
Mate, we actually sat on one year we played there. We actually sat on the ground at half time.
Yeah.
We didn't go up that, like, because it's like a 200 metre track up the hill at half time.
What?
Yeah, to come out of the stadium. We tried it, but because we did it during training, but then during the game, they were so loud we couldn't hear each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like getting changed and like it was a silly idea.
Yeah, so look, it's I think the scheduling is on purpose. First game, Ellis Park, let's hit them.
Yeah.
And in our home. You know, like everyone talks about Eden Park being the fortress. Ellis Park isn't that type of fortress, but still, it's a difficult place to play at the best of times, and it's where they most feel at home, if there is a home for South African rugby. I think if the game was in Bloemfontein or Durban or Cape Town, that first up test, then the All Blacks don't have that kind of history of that stadium to deal with, plus the intensity, like I said, of the South African players feeling like it's their home. You're coming into their house, is Ellis Park. That's their house. So, look, it's a hell of a situation to walk into, but that's why you play the game.
Absolutely.
Like as an All Black, it's like, righto, yeah, we are in your house, and we're going to kind of kick the door down. Let's go,
mate. Distractions aside, obviously there's the coaching side of things. The players must be incredibly confident after that clinical performance against the Pumas.
Incredibly confident?
Oh, no, I would be.
That's the Springboks?
No, that was super clinical, mate. Like, I literally, when I watched that 80-minute performance, it just kept pinging in my head, oh, wow, that was perfect. It's very difficult to be clinical across every aspect in the game, like set piece, breakdown, running lines, where players are doing their blocker lines, like... It was perfect. It was perfect. That was for 43 minutes because they didn't score another point after the 43rd minute.
I know, yeah.
But they surely must be still...
Oh, no, for sure. And I agree with you. Like, you look at that before, and the conditions were atrocious. They were shit.
Oh, they were horrible, yes.
So you're dealing with a greasy ball, and to piece together some of their short passing game, multiple phases, they were absolutely on fire in that first 40 minutes in particular. And their game plan execution was perfect. Their kicking strategy was good and varied. Their defence was brutal. They charged down the kicks. They won breakdowns. They smoked Argentina off the ball. Everything that they did was to perfection, and they'll feel good about that. But again, they won battles within the game that they won't win against the Springboks. Like they bullied Argentina, who dropped their lip. They dropped their lip at the breakdown.
Yep.
The All Blacks finally got into a game where there's some scrums before the 60th minute.
Yeah.
They literally pushed Argentina off their own ball. Argentina had no platform.
Yep.
Their line-out was a shambles. They'd obviously done their homework. The week before, Argentina were very good at line-out. They were crap in the second test. Their kicking strategy was really good in Wellington. It was awful at Eden Park. What I'm saying is the Springboks won't concede their scrum. They won't. Their line-out will be very, very ruthless. Their kicking game with their wingers and the execution of it is very, very good. So areas where the All Blacks really dominated that test match, then it allowed that clinical, perfection half to happen. It won't come as easy because the Springboks are just a better side than Argentina, and they won't lay down.
How important is it that the All Blacks will be going in with a settled lineup, and the Springboks will be going into this game? Some of their stars haven't played since the first test against the Wallabies. And to be fair on the Wallabies, they're only trying to stay in the game for 25 minutes at the moment. They're not trying to win the game. So how much of a factor will that be that the Springboks... No,
they'll be thirsty, those players. Like, nothing better. Like, to be fair, he's a bit of a creative genius, to be perfectly honest. Rassie Erasmus, because what he's done is he's allowed his basically starting World Cup 15 to make a statement and do a demolition of the Wallabies in Perth. But then he's created massive competitiveness in his squad by saying, yeah, but don't get complacent, because look at him in your jersey, who have gone out and been able to do a number on the Wallabies again. And yeah, they didn't do it as ruthlessly, but still showed that should you get a little bit of, your feet off the ground in your jersey, then we can still win without you.
Yeah.
And that creates an edge. As a player, there's nothing more motivating in a squad, in a big squad, than knowing that should you be slightly off,
Byron Kelleher is there to take your jersey.
Then someone can take your jersey. So what he's actually done is created a really awesomely competitive environment of competition for a jersey and a starting spot in that 23. So there's no way that they will be underdone, because they know that they're playing for their jersey.
And for me, the captain obvious thing is the All Black jersey. Like it's
absolutely.
Your pinnacle games. Like I was fortunate to play 17 Bledisloe Cup games, and all 17 were so intense. Like just the build up, knowing you knew when that game was on the calendar, and Marshy alluded to it earlier as well, as they're at home, man. Like they love playing in front of their crowd.
How do you think Damian McKenzie is going to fare against the Boks defence?
Yeah, look, it's a valid question because he hasn't been tested against that type of defence again since England, where he had his moments, didn't he, throughout that Test series? There's no doubt about it. But Argentina, they defend with line speed, but they don't have that umbrella blitz style defence. So to explain it to people, the umbrella defence narrows basically the field. So your centres and your wingers turn in hugely and really expose the outside to you where there's space. But because they are up ahead of everybody else, then like you see that there's no other option to get the ball there. You can see the space, but they just completely narrow your peripheral vision and they narrow the field. The difference between blitz style umbrella defence and line speed defence is that you don't see the same. The picture is different. It's just that players are up in your face quicker, but the field is not as narrow. So Argentina came up real quick and got in your face, but you haven't got wingers and centres having turned that space in. So it'll be different than what Argentina and Fiji offered the All Blacks post England defending like that. England defend very similarly. So yeah, hopefully he learnt from the English series, but that's the key. Like that player in that jersey. To have confidence, to trust instinct, and to recognise space when he sees these options and opportunities on, and then having the ability to pull the trigger when it needs to be pulled. Classic example is the try that the All Blacks scored. Beauden Barrett scored it in the Test at Ellis Park. McKenzie did a nice little block play, came around, and he got a line speed Argentina defender. And he got absolutely creamed. But he let the pass go, and Beauden Barrett ran a short line and went straight through and scored under the post. That's what you've got to trust. It'll be harder against the Springboks, but it'll be there. And so he's just got to have the ability to let it go. He let it go on that instance. I'll tell you what, if you look afterwards, and because everybody follows the ball, you watch Beauden Barrett smoke the line, he's going on. I watched McKenzie, didn't even look at Beauden Barrett, and he got... he got hit in the chest and he took him a while to get back up, but he did
tough,
it.
man.
Oh no, he's tough for a little guy, but I think also too, mate. It's your kicking game too, right? Like so that little chip to Artie Sevilla, I love those little trick plays. Like just when you've got a quick line speed like that, and that umbrella. So that outside centre ends up like say if you're coming from the sideline. That outside centre is up so quickly, like where the edge of the goalpost is. So there's a lot of space. There's half the field over there. And the way Ireland actually penetrated the box a lot, there was within 5 phases, they did 3 crossfield kicks, like within 5 phases because of that umbrella defence. So what I think we'll see with Damian McKenzie and maybe even Beauden Barrett come into that 10 position and get those crossfield kicks happening, because that's actually how you stop that umbrella defence too, is because if they continually go cross kicks or little chipping kicks
because you get caught narrow as a defender.
Correct, right? Like so they've got to spread out. They can't do it, and that's when you open up the space through the middle as well.
Well, we'll leave it there, shall we?
Yeah, and we've digested a lot, haven't we? But I tell you what, the good thing is, man, it's a good little block of rugby, isn't it? This rugby championship, like having these, which is unusual, not been done before. Back-to-back Test matches in the countries, like usually it's you play home and away. So this, All Blacks going to South Africa, like I already know, I'm heading out there. They are so looking forward to having the All Blacks in town for 2 weeks. Equally, the Wallabies have got 2 weeks in Argentina. They can go there and actually really, like you say, nestle in, get tight. Have a few beers, but equally, you're together. You're not in your home country. You don't have to worry about it. Just go over there and get stuck in. So, Yeah, heaps to talk about, and I tell you, next week it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, Marshy will be coming to you live in South Africa.
You will.
So looking forward to that. JP will be back in the studio. And yes, and if you're watching this, thank you very much. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe. We do read the comments. JP reads the comments. Follow us on social media as well. G Brands, we're on all social media. Give us a follow. Thanks very much.